Hi everyone. So a little bit of change, but change isn't always bad. So yesterday got some news that, potentially we won't go to the fourth round. And that kind of threw me for a loop a little bit because based on what I've been reading, the more rounds that we get of targeted therapy, the longer the stable period can be and the better the prognosis can be. And, I kind of just spun out for a little bit while I was talking to the doctor. And, just taking a step back from that, I could have, looked at it a little bit differently to where it wouldn't have caused me as much anxiety. So, I've been seeing a therapist for a while and that specializes in cognitive behavioral therapy. And it basically just teaches us to challenge our emotions or observe our emotions rather than live them, and have like knee-jerk reactions to things, right? So in that situation, when the doctor told me that, we may not be able to make it to the fourth round, but there are other options, the things that could have been more productive are, just asking the questions. So like, why does this worry me? Check in with your feelings and say like, does this mean that the prognosis is worse? And ask that question. And the answer to that question would have been no, because switching to a different mode of treatment is specifically to shrink the size of my liver for palliative care and improve quality of life, right? And we could potentially switch back to a targeted therapy in the future, or potentially consider doing the fourth round of targeted therapy even after we finish the CAPTEM. So basically, I could have approached that a little bit differently in understanding how it's making me feel, understanding my assumptions about the situation, challenging them based on facts or evidence, and then making a decision of how I want to react. I think CBT kind of teaches us to be an observer of our emotions rather than having to live all of our emotions, especially the bad ones. So it's just a reflection of, of that situation specifically, but there are tons of times where, the treatment plan or prognosis or the information doesn't necessarily go to plan, and inconsistency or uncertainty can cause a lot of anxiety. So it's important to be able to kind of pull yourself out of that and not get stuck in it, just kind of letting your mind spin, right? And CBT has worked well for me in the past, and it's become somewhat of a habit in thinking about, when I have negative emotions, it's like, what facts or evidence actually support this, right? If there's none, then let it go. If there is some, then is there anything we can do about it? Then just make a intentional decision to actually do something, right? So yeah, and then talking about my health yesterday, it's kind of like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back a little bit. I woke up the same number of times in the night, but this time I had to use the bathroom each night. I think, it's going to take a little bit of time before, my stomach settles down with the new eating clock. And now I'm also taking painkillers to help sleep at night. So I don't feel pain. So it's not the pain that's keeping me up. But in my last video, I talked a little bit, maybe there's like a subconscious anxiety or stress that's manifesting physically in waking up at night this many times. So I gotta think about how I can maybe meditate or do something to relieve that, if that is the actual driver, in combination with shifting my eating schedule, trying to not have to wake up so many times during the night. So that's still something I'm working on from a strength perspective. Not too strong at the moment. Need to definitely start exercising again. I think after they removed the liter of water from my right lung, I'm able to breathe better. So I think it'll be easier to exercise, and I'm feeling less bouts of fatigue. Those waves of fatigue that I get where when they come, I just kind of have to lie down. So it's good that that's happening, because it's basically saying that it's the just not getting enough air is likely what's causing it. And now that the right lung is clear, I can work on breathing exercises and hopefully even have more energy in the future. From a digestion perspective, eating and digestion perspective, taste buds are still out of whack. It's frustrating because it's not consistent. It can be I'm craving sour, and all of a sudden, nope, no more sour. Now I'm craving sugar. Nope, no more sugar. And then all of a sudden I'm craving sour again. It tends to alternate back and forth between those two. However, things like peanut butter jelly sandwiches, whole grains, those seems to be relatively consistent throughout. So those can always be my fillers. But it's tough because it's kind of like you can't get your hopes up in enjoying any type of food that gives you comfort, because you don't know if it does anymore. And when you're in need of comfort and you order something like that, it can be a pretty tough blow. But I think still have to choose joy every day, and it's not the end of the world. And there is a light at the end of the tunnel, because at some point this will be controlled enough to where my taste buds will come back. So looking forward to that. So in terms of next steps, today going to be going through lots of testing just to see if there's any causes of the liver being inflamed or enlarged that are not related to cancer. If we do find something, it's most likely treatable, which is a good thing. And if we don't find anything, we potentially switch to CAPTEM to be able to start shrinking the size of the liver. Or if the liver starts to respond by itself, then maybe we do nothing. But it'll be a discussion, and we'll figure it out after today, and once all the information is aggregated. On November 13th, PRRT was scheduled, but that will most likely be delayed as we look through different treatments and modalities of treatment. So we're still working on gathering information to make a informed decision. So hopefully in the next day or two, it'll sewn up, and I'll have more clarity. Still fighting hard every day, still choosing joy. Thank you very much, everyone, for all the comments and words of encouragement. It is definitely very appreciated. To all the new joiners, welcome, and I'm glad that you're here. I've pinned a chat in the comment section to show some of the reflections that I've made since we started this channel about 6 months ago in June. So if you found this video interesting and helpful, please like, subscribe, or share. And please have a look at the pinned chat in the comments to see even more of these reflections if you found this one interesting. So thank you very much, everybody, for watching. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye.